Awesome. I'm seeing excited. I'm seeing learning about more food access in the Chicagoland area. Um, yeah, care. Love that. Inspired. Yeah, it sounds like things are going really well. Interested, rejuvenated. Wow. Yes. Need some of that in these days. Informed and reflective. Amazing. Thank you all for sharing. I'm excited to be in the session with you today. Marley, can you go to the next slide, please? And I'm going to start with sharing a little bit about me. You know, that you're here, you're at the workshop that I'm facilitating. So I'd like to set the space up. My name is Yadi Caprice. My pronouns are they, them, or he, him. My farm home is called Free Movement Farm. It's a place that I build dreaming of ways to offer pathways for people to build relationships with the land that feel nourishing to them. And the vastness of how that can look has really opened my eyes to the ways that I want to connect with people. I've been working as a compost farmer in adjacent to being a vegetable farmer for the past few years. It's mostly been something that I've done on the farms as we're focusing on growing vegetables, but has largely been the thing that has been anchoring and grounding for me through the farming journey. Uh, the biggest lesson I've learned in farming is that all parts of the system need to be present for us to have food sovereignty. We need fibers, we need grains, we need soil to grow in, we need the pollinators. And a lot of that ecosystem is fed through the soil. It's the foundation that we move from. And nature has a different type of relationship with waste than humans tend to have. There is not a lot of waste, if any, in the natural ecosystems that we are moving with and through. Everything gets used, it gets put back into the system. There's no part that's just discarded because it's not seen as useful anymore. And that has been very healing and nourishing for me on my journeys, like through my identity as a Black person in the tumultuous landscapes that we live in as a trans person for very similar reasons, to have a very visual representation of how I'm connecting with the land in focusing on waste, of like putting that back in the system, and how it is essential to do so for the ecosystem to function at its fullest potential. Yeah, and it's just been really healing and anchoring. And I love that nature keeps going. You know, plants will die and they just fall into the ground. There are other parts, decomposers that come in, break it down, and something else grows. The land is never bare unless there's outside forces, typically human forces, that have caused the land to not be able to grow or cultivate any sort of plant life there. And that's the premise of where we're coming from through the session of connecting through compost. Marley, can you go to the next slide, please? So moving into the space and how we're going to set it up, I just want to touch on some assumptions as a facilitator so that you can see where I'm coming from and what the foundations of our conversations may be. The biggest one is we have to keep poop in the loop. Like, the amount of nutrients that we lose by taking poop out of the loop is astonishing. Manure is one of the most nutrient dense inputs that can go back into the soil, but is often just tossed out, discarded, right? And the thing that I'm challenging and bringing into the space is how do we reflect that for ourselves, right? Like, there are parts of ourselves that very, very vast messages around us communicate are waste, are not useful, are not helpful, are not necessary, are not needed in the systems that we navigate. But I challenge that to be not actually the case if we change our perspective and look at things from different lenses around us. And we are all coming to this conversation with a different relationship to our waste. Some of us have thought about it consciously, some of us haven't. And I just want to let you know that wherever you are, you're welcome in this space to move as you need to, and acknowledge that there may be discomfort that comes up as you start to reflect and build an intentional relationship with the things that we regard as waste outside of ourselves and within ourselves. And that is okay. Can you go to the next slide? And I encourage you to sit with it. Allow the discomfort to be present. Try not to immediately run away, but most importantly, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. You know, if it starts to feel unsafe to reflect on the things that you're reflecting on, take a pause, take a break, take a breath, and all of those things are okay and welcome. On each slide, as we move through the journaling space, there will be an affirmation. If you need to look up and just recenter, reground into the reflection, look at the screen. There's a little tidbit to help you get started on that. I also ask that you come with an open mind or heart, whichever way that you center yourself around those words. We're dynamic, we're changing, we're allowing ourselves to consider a different perspective in this space and any space that we navigate. And at first, it may not make sense, it may not hit, and that's okay, right? Come back to it, just, yeah, be present. And the biggest thing, request for the group is to allow journaling to take any form that feels best for you. If that's dancing, if that's moving, if that's standing, sitting, writing, journaling, just being still. So, you know, we don't get a lot of opportunities to be still these days. So if that's the way that you need to engage with this space, then I welcome that for you. To help give some context of how things will flow, there are 7-minute, 7-minute journaling sessions, and each one will present 2 questions. Choose which question you want to engage with, or if you want to engage with both or neither. If it's just a starting point for the reflection, that is completely open, welcome, accepted for what you need. I will be playing music in the background. There are no lyrics in the music, but if you want to turn off your sound because it's distracting, once the 7 minutes is over, I will message in the chat as well to let you know that we're shifting to the next prompts. The prompts will be dropped in the chat as well if you need to go back and reference them at any point. But most importantly, I'm excited to sit and reflect with you. And there will be a space after we journal to invite anyone to share anything that they're feeling called to put into the space. If there's any questions, please drop them in the chat. I'm open and welcome to acknowledging and moving through them. And I'm going to get the music set up so that we can get into journaling. All right, are you all ready? I don't see any questions flowing in. The first question is, when you think of waste, what comes up? And who influences that definition of waste? That's the first question. The second one is, what are some ways your perception of waste has shifted over the years? And again, engage with those questions as you feel called to. And I'm going to start the timer. Marley, can you go to the first journal slide, please? All right, 7 minutes, and we're going. To jump in, that was our first 7 minutes of journaling. Um, Hello, welcome to the space. And we're moving into the second set of journal prompts. I'm going to drop them in the chat and also read them out loud. And for anyone that just joined, feel free to engage in journaling in any way that feels nourishing for you. Dancing, moving, sitting, writing, drawing, any other thing you can think of is welcomed. And in the second questions, the first question is, what areas of your life get pushed aside as wasteful that are actually nourishing? And the second question of that prompt is, what's one way you can have an intentional relationship to waste as a part of your everyday life? And I'm going to start the second set of timers and we'll get back into it. And Roxana, thank you for sharing in the chat. We'll circle back during the reflection piece. And I've started the timer. Okay, that was our second set of question time. I'm going to drop the last questions in the chat. I'm excited to come together after this and reflect on what we found. The first question in this group of questions is, what's something you would do to shift your relationship to waste, and what do you hope comes from it? And the second question is, how can you keep poop in your loop? All right, I'm gonna turn the music back on and start the timer. There you go. Hello, everybody. That was the end of our 7-minute timer. And that concludes the journal space. If you still need to continue reflecting, you're more than welcome to do so. We're also going to open the space up to conversation with the group. Marley, could you go to the next slide, please? Some questions to help us get started with the reflections. If you need an assist, is what form did journaling take for you today? And if that one doesn't feel aligned, did anything come up in your journaling that surprised you? And this is an invitation to drop things in the chat or unmute yourselves and speak if you feel okay doing so.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Jabby. Just want to share my form of journaling today took place in the chat. As you can see, I don't have any tools right now for writing other than that, using this space that is already given to me. I appreciate the space. And I was not expecting the poop question, so that's the surprise that I have to reflect.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad to hear that you used the tools that you had to be able to engage in the space.
Thank you, and the music, great.
Awesome, thanks. I'll let the DJ know, the curator that helped me get it together.
Yeah, I would like
Yeah.
to hear from someone else too, like Rosanne. She was also texting in the chat.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Hi, Yadi.
Hello.
My form of journaling today was pen and paper. So I was actually writing out the questions. Um, what came up for me on the second question? What's something you would like to shift in your relationship with waste? And what do you hope comes from it? Well, not second question, but a question.
Yeah.
Um, recognizing the benefits of waste. For example, waste can alert you to health issues um, within your body, and also a reflection of how you are caring for yourself. Um, because I said my, I guess we're related because my ditty, I guess, is my poop is the proof of basically how I'm caring for myself or how I'm showing love for myself, and to not judge what I'm feeling, but just recognize that it's there and adjust when I'm ready. So
Amazing. Love that.
I'm complete. Thank you.
Yes. We also have some shares in the chat. I see that someone's journaling was thinking and writing. Amazing way to engage. Um, they were surprised by how personal the prompts became, started thinking about childhood memories and your perception of waste, which is very real. Like that's something I've also experienced during my journey of reflecting on composting and waste. That was very, very shocking. Um, Also, the question of who influenced your definition of waste was something that Amy had never really thought about. If anybody else wants to share in verbally in the space, feel free to jump in at any point. We have a form of journaling was physical movement in journaling, and was surprised by the initial reaction to the word waste. Even after years of reframing my relationship to waste, it was surprising to experience that reaction. Thank you for sharing.
I'm gonna hop in because Erica, you asked. Yeah, I think my initial reaction was, I think it was neither like a good or bad, but just surprising in that um, yeah, have just like been creating very intentional ways of thinking about my waste, of thinking about even like the word waste. I feel like I don't use that word very often because I just kind of shifted my way of thinking about it into like decay or being more part of like a process. And I realized that in this question, to me, waste was like a very linear way of thinking about it, or that's at least my association to the word waste is very like linear of like, and to someone else's point, it did start to get a little personal to where I was like, oh, this seems like I am at the center of the process and it's something for me to consume. And once that consumption is over, then it becomes waste. And it's like a very like linear process of that, as opposed to like, it should just reach a different stage in its cycle, which is how I think about it now. But to even, yeah, like see or hear the word waste was like, oh, I had not thought about it in that way for so long. But that association was still there. So that was a very reflective like point for this entire thing. So thank you for this space.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing. That's real. Like I've had large reactions to the word waste that I wanted to figure out and move through and sit with. And that comes from the encouragement of sitting with the discomfort that comes up around the concept of waste. You know, we're taught like it doesn't exist, we're done with it, it's gone. We don't acknowledge it, but like you said, it just has a different part in the process at that point. So thank you for sharing that. I see the waste linear thought equals discard versus waste equals decaying, a natural process in the chat, which love, thank you so much. I see agreed. Even in my journaling, I associated the word with endings and finite. But that's, the notion that we're challenging is that it's all a cycle, it's all connected, and we're all connected to each other. I see in the chat, yeah, it made me think of how sometimes I try to discard my mistakes instead of turning them into a growing medium. Love that. Definitely find that to be relatable content. We're going to close the reflection space shortly so we can make sure we're keeping with the time of the session. Is there anybody else that wants to add anything of any kind before we shift to closing out?
Hi, Adi.
Hi.
I would like to share for this section, areas pushed aside in your life as wasteful. Something that came up for me was resting. I think that a lot of times in our life, taking time to rest and taking time to reflect, or even just like watching TV, can be seen as wasteful. But in reality, it can be really restorative. So that was something that was surprising for me that came up through journaling.
Yes, amazing. Absolutely. Fun fact, y'all, I take a break after every task that I do, even if it's just 5 minutes. Because rest is not wasteful. And I appreciate that you brought that into the space. And yeah, love that everybody in the chat's like, yes, same. But remember to rest. Rest is productive. Snaps to that. Marley, can you go to the next slide, please? And these are some reflections that I've had over the months and year or so of intentionally sitting with the concept of waste and engaging in composting. There's value in things that we are taught are waste, including those parts of ourselves. And as I mentioned earlier, I've been navigating a gender journey, and there was a lot of healing and debunking to do of like what I regarded of myself as waste and unnecessary and needed to be pushed down. And I can only imagine in the various systems that we navigate, how much of that is present within each one of us in this space. So I want to offer that to you as we, are transitioning back into our days of it's easy to fall into the fast-paced movement and feel like we're not taking care of ourselves. So just take that nugget with you. Having an intentional relationship with our waste often has deep impacts. Again, something that I've noticed and learned. And it makes me feel excited to think about waste when I think about that it's not just going away or unuseful, or like it's a part of me, a part of the process, a part of the system that I'm navigating. And a big takeaway is a relationship with the land can look many different ways. There's this pressure often that I've felt where if you want to have a relationship with the land, it's get up, it's grow something, it's farm, it's garden, it's all these things, but it can be as simple as having a bucket in your house that you put your compost in, or taking a walk through a garden, or like engaging in the act of composting in general. So I just want to offer those as meet yourself where you are in relationship to the land and not forcing it if that doesn't feel aligned for you. And can you go to the last slide? Here's some resources for you. And if you're participating in the keyword in the gathering of the keywords, it's in the bottom left corner. It's macronutrients. I really appreciate you all joining the space with me. It is my first workshop that I've hosted, so it's very special, and all of you will have a very special place for me in the ways that we engaged and cultivated this space together. Free Movement Farm is on Instagram. We'll be launching our residential compost service in the summer of 2022, so be on the lookout for that. And if you're interested in getting started right now with composting, there's Healthy Soil Composting and Urban Canopy that are actively working and doing composting services throughout the Chicagoland area. And I would love to hear from you. If you want to email me, reach out via Instagram. I love connecting with people, building relationships, and learning together collectively. So feel free to do that. If you have anything else you want to add before we jump off, feel free. But I'm done at this point. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you so much. And you did a great job. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yadi. Just a quick reminder that if you head over back to the virtual platform to this session, you can fill out the poll at the right-hand side of your screen and share your feedback and love. And then the raffle code, macronutrients. And I also posted in the chat that our flavor and reimagination team is working on creating a zine about the summit. And so we'd love if folks are comfortable sharing some of their journal reflections for the zine. There's a Google form in the chat that you can share some of those reflections.
Awesome. Thank you for your support, Marley. And if you all can fill out the poll, that would mean so much to me if you have a few minutes to do that.
Hey,
And
just a quick question. What does the keyword means again? Sorry.
macronutrients.
Oh, just
Yeah. It's not really a meaning to the session. It was just a fun word that came when asked.
okay. Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. You all have a good rest of your day. I know this was a pause and breath, so get back into it and ease into it. Caring for yourselves in the process. Bye.